Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's go time. It's Wednesday. It's 9 a.m. and it's time to have some fun. So, welcome to weekly Life of a CISO podcast, live Q&A with yours truly, Dr. E. There's no questions. This was the first time we come in and there wasn't no questions there. So I don't know if Wednesday at 9 is not a good time or we need to do a better job getting the message out there. See who's joining us. It looks like we got 4 people. So rocking and rolling. And that's actually good. It gives me a chance to catch my breath. Little wild morning this morning. You know, I'm into 365, right? Body, mind, relationships, business, getting all those in balance. So started back up my Krav Maga lessons. And this morning we started weapons training. And I learned a valuable lesson that many of you probably know and didn't need to learn. It's not fun to get stabbed with a knife, right? So we had a little accident this morning. Starting to do some weapons training with the knife on there, but I'm all good. I was going to show you, but yeah, you probably don't need to see the bandage. But we're doing good, and I'm just sort of catching my breath, getting the adrenaline back down to a normal level. So it's good as the questions come in doing kung fu. Yeah. So it's funny because I'm sure you have questions that a few of my friends did when I was driving back. The first one was one of my friends goes, dude, only a crazy person would actually do weapons training with a real knife. And then he paused and he goes, never mind. Right? Never mind. Right? If you don't have a little crazy, right? A little fun, that's good. So I took that as a compliment. The second one that most people have, and you probably have, is, dude, why in the world would you do weapons training with a real knife? Why wouldn't you use a plastic knife? And it's real simple. And it's going to tie into a great lesson with being a world-class CISO. If all you do is practice with plastic knives, guess what? I hope and pray that I never ever get into a knife fight, and I don't believe I will, because if you're prepared, you won't. But I will tell you, if you get into a knife fight, they're not showing up with plastic knives, right? They're showing up with real knives that are sharp. So the question is this: if you only practice with plastic knives and your mind only believes that there's plastic knives out there, what do you think is going to happen when you get into a real fight where they're not plastic? You're not going to be ready, right? You're not going to be mentally prepared. So you want to go in and make sure that you make your experience, your practices as real life as possible so you're ready and prepared. World life's being a world-class CISO. If you hire me as a coach, I'll give you free coaching this morning. Since the questions are a little slow coming in, give you some free coaching. If you hire me as your coach, whether you're a security engineer and want to be a CISO, whether you're a manager or a director or a deputy CISO or even a CISO, one of the first questions I'm going to ask is, when was the last time you met with the COO one-on-one? When was the last time you met with the CFO one-on-one? When was the last time you met with chief legal counsel? And the answer most people give is, oh, I haven't, or it's been a really, really long time. So wait a second. One of the biggest areas that people need help and one of the biggest weaknesses is presenting to a board. It's talking to the board in English so they can understand. Well, if you've never, ever had one-on-ones with the COO, the CFO, or chief legal counsel, how are you ready? Well, Eric, I brief my team. I do. That's practicing with plastic knives, right? You're not doing the real thing. And this is why so many CISOs struggle when they get in a real world environment, when they get in a boardroom, because they haven't practiced with the real thing. If you want to be a CISO or currently a CISO, you need to have regular meetings with the COO, the CFO, and chief legal counsel. Oh, but Eric, they won't meet with me. Let's pull on that string. Just some basic questions here. Why won't somebody meet with you? Why don't you meet with people? If somebody wants to have a meeting with you and you won't meet with them. You just won't make the time. Let's just be honest. What does it mean? You don't provide value. It's really that simple. Now, it could be extreme that they annoy you, you don't like them, or every time you see them, you want to punch them in the face, right? Depending on the person, hopefully they don't feel that way about you. But the simple reason is this: if somebody doesn't want to meet with you, it's because they don't see value. So, trick, start providing value. If you start providing value to them, they will meet with you. And when you meet with them, make sure you provide value. It's simple. I'll tell you right now, every time I meet with the COO, CFO, Chief Legal Counsel, I am prepared, I'm ready, and I always add value. I always answer their questions, and I always help them with what they're currently doing. Guess what? Every time I want to have a meeting, they're always available. I could go in right now and say, I'm going to be in New York City tomorrow, and I'm free from 7:30 to 8. I want to see if you'd want to grab some coffee. This is a client we've worked with for a while, Chief Legal Counsel. Almost guarantee if they're in town, even if they have something else going on, they'll switch it. They'll always meet with me because they know that I provide them tons of value every time we meet. So that's just something to think about is, are you providing value to everyone you meet? And if not, practice, 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 right? Because that's how you're going to get better at doing that. All right, so we got some questions coming in. Dr. Kung Fu, I love that. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yeah, that cup of coffee. I'm not a coffee person, but it's a little cold outside, sort of rainy and sleety around here. I could use that cup of coffee. So Zach's coming in first place today with the first official question. Should you lean into your strengths or both of your weaknesses more? Awesome question. And I'm going to give a little unconventional. Unconventional. Most people go in and say, oh, focus on your weaknesses. But here's the question. If it really is something that you're not good at and you don't like, then why are you forcing yourself to do it? Now, if it's just, so I want to define weakness. If weakness is just something that you haven't done a lot of, but if you put in some time, energy, and effort, you could be very good at it, that's different. But if it's something you just don't enjoy doing, why would you want to do that? Surround yourself with people that are really good at that. If you go in and look at my personality, if you Myers-Briggs or whatever those tests are, my strengths are like at the top and my weak areas are at the bottom. I don't have any middle, right? I don't have any middle, which is probably not a surprise to you, but I'm about optimizing. I'm either going to go all in or all out. If there's a skill that I must know or must learn, and it's a strength, I'm going all in on it. I'm going to be the best at it. But if it's something that doesn't interest me or I can hire or surround myself with someone who is good at it, then I'm not going to focus any energy or attention on it. Now, here's the interesting part. If you look at my EA, Myers-Briggs, we've never done it, but I can guarantee what hers is. Hers is the complete opposite of mine. My low areas are her highest, and her low areas are my highest. So here's the thing. Eric by himself has weaknesses. Eric with his EA, when we team up, is unstoppable because there's no weaknesses. My weaknesses are her strength and vice versa. So the trick is surround yourself with someone or people who complement those weaknesses. The areas you're not very good at because you don't enjoy it and you're not really good at it, then you shouldn't focus on them and focus it on your strengths. The reason why I'm hesitant here is because I want a big caveat, a big caveat. There's actually two big caveats. One big caveat. Speaking and communication can never be a weakness to you. Those have to be strengths. So don't come back and tell me, but Eric, I'm not a good communicator, or I don't speak well, or I don't do great in talking to groups of people. You want to be a world class CISO, you want to be world class in anything, you have to be able to communicate. Now, it's interesting. There's different styles. There's different styles that are out there. And just look at some of the different examples and world leaders that we've seen out there, right? That they have extremely different styles, but they are very, very effective communicators. Some people don't like them. Some people love them. But if you look at some great communicators, President Obama was a great communicator. He really knew how to communicate. And he's what we tend to call more of a positive communicator. He tended to do more uniting. Don't get mad at me. I know some people love him or hate him. A lot of emotion on it. President Trump was an amazing communicator. Now, he's what you call an instigator, communicator, but communicator, look at how many people would respond and react. Everybody listens when he talks because they either want to support it or get offended, right? So you might not like what he says, and it's not necessarily my communication style, but the point is they can still communicate. So the point is you don't have to be perfect communicator, but you do have to be able to communicate. That has to be a strength. Now, scheduling and managing minute details, program management, those are not strengths. They're not something I desire. They're not something I need. My EA is amazing at those, and she does a top-notch job. And boom, let her do that. She's amazing at it. I'm not. So it's not something I must have. But if it's a skill like communication that you must have, you don't have to be perfect, but you have to be effective based on what you decide you want your communication style to be. So that's caveat one. Caveat two, is it really a weakness or is it undeveloped? I'll give you an example. 3 weeks ago, I would go in and say writing copy was a weakness. It's something I never did. It's something I never put energy and effort into it. However, my team needed me to, because if the company is up here and my team doesn't know what I'm thinking and they don't understand what our unique differentiators are and I don't communicate it to them, that's not very good. So I actually wrote a bunch of copy and I went in a studio and got interviewed on it. And my team is like, dude, these are the best videos you ever created. They're authentic, they're real, they're explaining what we do and how we do it. This is brilliant copy. So now I'm getting better at it. Am I a master? Am I as good as my marketing person? Heck no. My marketing person is always going to do the copy, but now I can provide input so they can do a better job to be able to do that. But that's an example where it was a weakness because I never did it, not because I wasn't good at it. Right? Now, my team might disagree and say you're not good at it, but based on the feedback we're getting, I'm actually quite good at it. I just have never done it. So those would only be the two caveats, Zach. There is, yes, absolutely, bolster your strengths, focus on your strengths, and wherever your weaknesses are, if they're not critical, like communication or breathing or things that you have to be able to do, find an EA or find an assistant that complements your weaknesses. And then also make sure that you're not calling something a weakness because you haven't done it. Make sure it's truly something you don't enjoy doing, and then have somebody else do that or complement. Has the time for live sessions got shifted for Wednesday instead of Thursday? So we're mixing them up now. And we want your feedback, because we had some feedback from folks saying, Eric, if you do it at 9:30 a.m. Eastern every Thursday, I have a meeting every week at that time. So I will not be able to attend. And we got that comment from other folks. So what we're trying is mixing it up, is doing it on Tuesday, doing it on Wednesday, Thursday. So we're trying, and once again, give us feedback. Now you can give us feedback here or on the videos themselves if you like having a set time. Some people do, some people don't, or if you like mixing it up. So this was one where we're just listening to our customer feedback and just trying some different times to see what works best for folks and what they like or don't like. How much involvement should an organization assist with when a vendor, third-party supply chain, or partner experience a breach or a compromise? Awesome question. Awesome question because it's multifaceted. So, couple of pieces to this. First and foremost, what is the impact to your company? So when you say they have a breach, what data of yours do they have? And has your data or your client's data been actually breached? What is the impact to your organization? Is it an annoyance? Is it an availability outage where you just can't access their site? Is it a vulnerability where you could be a target? Or did their breach actually cause a breach to your organization? So you have to go in and look at what was the impact of the breach to your company and your organization. Number one rule of dealing with breaches, incidents, or anything along those lines is first call needs to be the chief legal counsel. You have to get them on the call. And this is why you should have a relationship with your chief legal counsel. The first time you're calling chief legal counsel shouldn't be when you have a breach. Hey, I'm Eric Cole. We never met. Let me introduce myself. Oh, never mind. We have a breach. Now, you should have that relationship where you're getting together. When I've been a CISO at companies, I would go to lunch or grab coffee with chief legal counsel 2 or 3 times a week. We were basically BFFs. Just give me 1 second. Running behind this morning. I forgot to plug in my computer, right? So let me get that plugged in so we don't run out of juice. So it was, oh, good. We're still there. Good there. Okay. My time down, got computer locked. I'm back. And we got juice now, so we can go all day long. Not that we will. So you should have a very close relationship with chief legal counsel, and you need to get them involved right away because they're going to understand legality aspects. Because here's the biggest one: mandatory reporting. Depending on what industry and business you're in and the type of data and the type of information you have, there are some laws that have mandatory reporting requirements within a certain time interval. You must report this within 12 hours or 24 or 36. So what happens is if security decides, oh no, we don't want to, and they don't understand the legal requirements, you can actually get yourself or your company into a lot of issues. So you want to get legal immediately involved and see what the issue is. And then let's say it's an incident that impacts your company, impacts your data. Question: is the vendor or third party qualified and prepared to handle the incident? Next, how big a problem is it? Because let's face it, even if this is a huge vendor and they're fully qualified to be able to handle the breach, and tons of customers have been impacted, do you think that third-party vendor, their primary focus is your company? Their primary focus is what? Their butt. Right? Their company, saving their and protecting their butt. So they're not going to necessarily be doing what's best for you. They're going to be doing what's best for their company. So that's why, with all that background, I would say 80% of the time, if a third party or vendor gets breached and your data is impacted, you want to have folks that are representing you either on the team or running the team. Very rarely, unless it's only your data and the vendor is giving dedicated resources to focus on recovering your data. But if it's a larger breach that involves you and other entities, you want to be involved. You want to have people that are representing you involved, and you potentially want to not only be involved, but run and oversee the incident. Good morning from Louisiana. Louisiana. I'm not headed to Louisiana. I'm heading down south to Tennessee later today. So I'll be sort of loosely in your neck of the woods, heading a little farther south. But evidently, I looked at the weather and it's just as cold down there. So good morning. Good morning. How do you manage putting out fires versus actually managing normal tasks or projects? One of my favorite questions. This is one where I think I'm pretty good at it, right? Not everyone likes my solution, but here's the solution. How big is your current team? And let's just keep it simple. It's you. Actually, let's make it fun. It's you and 4 people. And right now, you and 4 people are spending all of their time putting out fires. That's all you do. Because guess what? Emergencies and crisis and fires have this interesting thing. They'll consume as much time as you give them. And I guarantee if you had 6 people, they would still be putting out fires all day long. It's just how it is. It consumes as much time as possible. Now, question. What if there was an emergency with your family? Something happened, and once again, you're all healthy, all your family's safe. None of this is going to happen. I'm not confessing any of this. This is just hypotheticals. But let's say that something happened and one of your family members got rushed to the hospital. What would you do? You would leave work and you'd spend the rest of the day at the hospital taking care of that family member. So you're saying that in that situation, you didn't put out fires for that day because you had an emergency and you were handling the family emergencies and you didn't put out fires. But guess what? The place didn't burn down. Wow. So that means that the organization could survive if you're not there for a day. Because same thing, what happens when you go on vacation? What happens if you have personal doctor's appointment or something in the morning? There are scenarios where you are not there, you are not putting out fires, and guess what? The organization somehow survives. So you can absolutely spend less time on fires. So here's what I do. It's you and 4 people, and right now all you do is put out fires. What if the company came to you and said, we're having a layoff? Very, very common these days. And they go, listen, we're cutting half your staff, so you only have 2 people. And oh, by the way, we need you to only be part-time CISO. So from 8 to 12, you're CISO. But from 12 to 5, we have another job for you. And that's the reality. You don't have a choice. That just happened. Guess what? You'll all of a sudden readjust priorities and you'll only be putting out fires 8 to 12 and with 2 people. You'll figure it out because you have no choice. So here's the cool part. Do that. Starting February 1, you got a week to plan or 5 days to plan or whatever time we have left to plan. But starting February 1, there's a reorg. You now are CISO or head of security from 8 to 12, and you have half the team you did. That's all you have to put out fires. Non-negotiable. You can't argue with it. It's just a fact of life. Then from 12 to 5, and the other half of your team, you focus on strategy. You focus on implementation. You focus on making forward progress. And I know, because I've done this a lot, but there again, Trust me, it's a non-negotiable. This is not open to discussion. Your organization made a decision, and this is the reality. Oh, but Eric, this good. No, remember, you've taken off in the afternoons. You've done personal things in the afternoon. You've taken vacation. The company survived. This will work. Now, the biggest enemy is mentally. You'll convince yourself it won't. But if you honestly believe that there was a reorg and this is the new structure, you can only put out fires 8 to 12 with half your team, and that's just the reality. Fire happens at 3, let it burn. Not going to burn down the organization. It'll figure out the next day, because guess what? If you were in the hospital with your family member, you wouldn't have dealt with it. So treat it like that same thing. You're not available, and just force that agenda. And then all of a sudden, the fires get self-contained, and you have a lot more time to work on strategy. I think burnout in cyber is high because people get in too early. Seems like a second stage career, get a few years of general tech experience before entering a more complex field. Zach, one of my favorite topics. Okay. Burnout. Burnout means the fire burnt out. It means there wasn't enough fuel on the fire and the fire went out. So if we use that true analogy, because that's what a burnout is, somebody gets burnt down in their field because they've lost purpose, they lost focus, they don't enjoy what they're doing, or they're doing it for a paycheck. So to me, the way you avoid burnout is put more fuel on the fire. People always joke with me when I start, because I get to that point where I sometimes lose focus. I stop looking at what's important. I get distracted, and I start turning it into a job and getting really busy. And whenever I get burnout, people are always like, "Oh, Eric, you got to stop working weekends. You got to start relaxing. You got to start taking vacations." But here's the funny thing: does that ever really fix it? Do you ever see anybody that's burnt out, so they take a week off, and then they come back and they're good for a year? It never happens. Maybe a few days and then they're back to where they were because they didn't fix the problem. The way you fix the problem is you put more fuel on the fire. You focus more on your purpose. When I get realigned, I started December getting a little burnt out because I lost focus. And January, I am on fire. I mean, I am so focused, have so much clarity. I am putting in more hours that you would call work than I ever did. I mean, this last weekend, I worked a whole weekend, and you know something? I was so excited because things are clicking, things are coming together, things are happening, and I see my purpose being fulfilled, and I see what I'm doing moving towards that purpose. And I'm putting in more hours, but I'm more excited because it's aligned with my purpose. You put fuel on the fire. The way you avoid burnout is get people excited. The way you avoid burnout is putting fuel. You put more logs on the fire, and the fire burns hotter. So the irony is, the real way to avoid burnout is to put more time into what you love, not to take a vacation. Vacations don't solve burnout. It's realigning what you do and what you enjoy. And I think the problem is, Zach, what you hit it, is cyber is such a hot area. There's such a huge demand, and it pays so well. You have a lot of people moving into cyber for a paycheck. And that's a big problem I'm seeing out there, is the reason why you're getting a lot of frustration, a lot of burnout, a lot of issues in this high-tech area is because there's such a big demand, basic economics, supply and demand, that the salaries and compensation are through the roof, that people are doing it because they can double their salary, but they don't really love and enjoy it. And therefore, there's no purpose, there's no fuel, thus the burnout syndrome. So to me, the trick is, if you're starting to feel burned out, just do a reality check. What is my purpose? What do I love to do? And start getting realigned and do more of that. And you will see the fire burning hotter than ever. But I've never seen taking a vacation, playing golf, or spending the weekend watching football ever fix burnout. It makes it worse because you're letting the fire burn out. You're not putting fuel on it. But when I see people re-engage, read a book, go to a conference or an event, or change their mindset, change their thinking, that's all of a sudden when the fire starts burning hotter than ever. So, yes, when people are not doing what they love and following money, you have that issue. But I would recommend getting people realigned with what they love to do. And the more you do that, the hotter the fire burns. Good morning. I owe my job to you, the master. Once again, thank you, but no, you don't. You owe it to yourself, right? Because you've done the work, my friend. So I can give advice, and trust me, there's a lot of people that don't listen. So the fact that you've listened and took the advice is kudos to you. So I'll give you all the credit for that. What do a company that puts a CISO under sorry. Oh, what to do in a company that puts a CISO under the CIO, which is under the CEO? Essentially, three options. If there's a unique relationship and unique understanding between the CIO and the CISO, it could work. It's a fragile thing because it's backwards. The CIO is concerned with one thing, uptime availability, and you're concerned with many things. So it's not a long-term fix. It could work short-term, but here's the real thing. If the CIO really believes in you and what you're doing, they should know that you shouldn't be under them. They should know that you should be equals to them. And if the CEO really cares about security and really understands the importance of security, they would never, ever, ever put a CISO under a CIO. So there's a couple things going on here. First, there's a lack of understanding or a lack of respect for what you do. And don't get mad at me, but I put that on you. So how well a job are you doing educating the CIO and the CEO, making them fully aware that this isn't working, this isn't going to work, and this is not the smart way to do things? Now, you could be in a situation where they don't care. There's some people out there that don't want to listen, that just, nope, they made a decision, they're doing it, they don't care. And in that case, you basically have two choices. You can stay to get the title. So you can say you were a CISO for 6 months or 12 months. But the reality is, if they're not open to listen and they're not open to change it, you're limited at that company. Your ability to grow, your ability to be successful, your ability to truly be a CISO at the level that you need to play at is just not there. So just recognize you should try to fix it. You should try to educate. You should try to create allies and come up with a solution in which you don't fall under it. But the reality is, if they don't and won't, then you need to start looking for another job, because you're not going to be able to thrive and be world-class in that type of environment. But like I said, if you've never been a CISO before, and this is the first CISO opportunity, and it's at a big enough company that it's really good for the CV, then I do sometimes tell folks, listen, not ideal. You're not going to be able to knock it out of the park, but that's okay, because we're here for one thing and one thing alone: to be able to say you're at a CISO at $1 billion company. And that's important. I mean, there's value to that. Don't underestimate that. Having that experience is huge. So if that's the reason that we have a clear plan of moving ahead, then I'm okay with you doing it. But if you're a CISO already and you're at a great company and you're making great money and you get a new job offer where you're a CISO under a CIO, I'd say you're going backwards. Right? It's not ideal. It's not something you want to thrive for. It's not something you want to look for. But like I said, if it's a short-term solution to get experience, it's okay. But it's not going to work in the long term, and you're not going to get to world-class status with that relationship. If a security administrator, where did we go? There we go. If a security administrator who keeps all their credentials acts against the organization and shares all the credentials with a malicious outsider, how should a CISO react to this and how to prevent? Why are they still at the company? Why is this person still employed? I mean, you have an administrator that basically stole all your credentials. They shared them with malicious outside. So essentially, you have a criminal here. They've committed crimes against your organization. So hopefully, you've involved legal and you decide whether you want to take criminal or civil action against that person, and you work with HR. But why in the world are they still employed? Right? Well, why are they still there? That needs to be fixed immediately. You then need to change all the credentials. And then here's the real question. How did this happen? How did you get in a situation where you hired essentially a criminal? You hired somebody that maliciously and intently hurt the organization and committed crimes against the organization. So you'd want to work with HR and say, what could we do different or better in the hiring process to minimize or reduce this from happening in the future? And then separation of duties. How can you organize and set up the security department so one person doesn't have all the keys? So one person doesn't have all of the information or data. So this is one where the person's got to be fired. You potentially want to take criminal or civil action against them. And then you need to put measures in place to minimize or reduce or stop that from happening. But here's the most important part. And I'm just looking at your question again. How should a CISO react? From a position of logic and power, not from emotion. So the most important thing in these situations is you take a deep breath and you say, what are the facts? Not emotional, but what are the facts? What are the facts? Not subjective, objectively. What are the facts? Present the facts, work with legal and potentially law enforcement, and then take appropriate action. Usually, where these things go off the wire is when we start having issues with emotions, or we start getting very subjective and we start losing sight of what's important. But you want to make sure you do it from a non-emotional state. Okay, so next one, Blazin. Math is my weakness. I got like an A, B in every class during college besides math. I would get like a C plus and even a couple of Fs. But one day I want to create advanced ion cryptography. Okay. Remember, I'm always coming from love from my heart. So first question is it truly a weakness, or is it just you had bad teachers? Now once again, we're not blaming. You're 100% responsible, and I don't want you to think, oh, Eric's going. No, I'm not. I'm just trying to get your mindset here on, could we go in and say that this isn't really a weakness, this is really just an undeveloped skill? Because remember, that's a difference, right? A weakness is something you really aren't good at. An undeveloped skill is just something you haven't put energy or effort against, right? And if you did, you could. Because at first reading it, Blaze, and I'll be honest with you, reading it very quickly, it seems like a conflict because I read it as you don't like math, you're not interested in math, and you want nothing to do with math. But someday, what one of your goals or dreams is you want to be a math expert because that's what crypto is. So I look at that and go, that doesn't make sense, right? There's a conflict there, and Blaze is a smart dude. So clearly there's something else there. So what I'm guessing is going on is you didn't do well in math in school for whatever reason, and you develop limiting beliefs that you're not very good at it. And you develop limiting beliefs that you don't like it and you don't enjoy it. But the reality is, you're fascinated by it. You think crypto is one of the coolest things out there. And you think math is pretty wild and pretty amazing. So if that's the case, if I'm reading that correctly and you're sort of like nodding, then it's easy. Make it fun. How can you go in and prove that you're good at math? How can you go in and get excited with math? How can you go in and start having fun with it? And it's easy. Start playing with crypto algorithms. There's a ton out there. Start downloading crypto algorithms, right? And start playing with them and go, this is so cool and this is fun. And get excited about it and prove to yourself that those limiting beliefs are not true. But the bottom line is, as long as you're saying it's a weakness and you're not good at it, it's going to be very hard for you to pursue your dream of developing or building cryptography. So what we need to do now is for the next 6 months is you need to go and just start having fun with crypto. Just start playing with the algorithm, start having fun, start doing cool things, start going in and encrypting all your friends' hard drives and holding it right. No, sorry, don't go there. I'm joking around. But the point is, start making it that you enjoy math so then you can pursue what you want to do, which is actually go in and build out an AI and cryptography algorithm. So you want to overcome those limiting beliefs by start making it fun and enjoyable. Love these. Okay, great. Dr. Cole, I'm currently a BISO. How can I best leverage this role to prepare and transition to a CISO? I'll be honest with you. You're there. Just keep getting more and more experience. A business information security officer and a chief information security officer, they're very similar in terms of the mindset and what you're doing. But really the big difference is you just got to get very comfortable with the strategy and talking with executives and interfacing with executives and doing that, which my guess is you do some of that. A lot of it is just letters. I mean, BISO, CISO, ISO, right? It's just different levels, but essentially it's really that same skill set. So I would say you're absolutely on track and just continue to build up those communication, executive skills, being able to talk and communicate from a business level. So excellent. That brings us to the end. We actually ran a couple minutes over. If I missed a few of your questions, remember, come early. Right? Today was the first day we didn't have questions waiting, but it's first come, first serve, my friends. So I gave you a couple of extra minutes, but I like to keep it to about 45 if at all possible. So have an amazing week. Give us feedback on whether you like us switching the times or having the same time. If there's any other topics we can help you with, definitely let us know. I'm going to keep giving you free content, but if you ever want to crank it up and get more accelerated with the process and either work with me in one of our programs or coaching or one of our trainings, we do have paid options. Definitely head over to secure-anchor.com and take a look. And we'd be happy to jump on a call with you and see how we can help you. Otherwise, have an amazing week. Make sure you keep checking social. And I'll see you next week on our CISO Live, super podcast. So have a great week and take care.